Here we go. We're back with episode 9. I redid all my calibration, and now my wiper blade is just constantly going to be popping up there. If you remember in episode 8, I was having an issue where I couldn't get my rail driver, throttle, or the reverser into neutral. It'd be nice if we could calibrate individual axes instead of the whole thing. Now let's make sure the brakes are all released. That won't go away until who knows when. We have to throw that switch, and we have to throw that switch, and we are putting these cars on that track. Whoa, why am I zooming in? I didn't want to zoom in. I have a button for that. So, in previous episode I talked about how it's kind of difficult for me to do recordings because I have housemates and they occasionally come downstairs and do stuff. And as soon as I was done recording episode 8, one of my roommates came down and started making a cup of coffee and everything. We just talked for a few minutes about why I'm taking today off from work. And I'm like, because I got surgery tomorrow and I want to take a week off for my surgery. He was like, oh, okay. Which, mind you, by the time this episode comes out, I will have already had my surgery, so I'm recording this the day before my surgery, and this isn't coming out for like another 2 weeks. I want to basically finish this journey, this hour-long journey that they're having us go. And we'll go into external view just because I gotta spot this car here. In the previous episode, I talked about how the rail driver lets you, in other games like Run 8, even if you're not in the cab of the locomotive, you can still basically run your locomotive as a remote-controlled unit. I think it'd be kind of nice feature for TSW. Be able to actually get out, walk, and ride on this car instead of going into external view like this. The wiper switch doesn't quite index to 0, and I calibrated it at 0, but then TSW's like, you want to discalibrate, you're not the exact spot, you're 1 or 2 off, and you're moving it just a little bit, so we're just going to constantly tell you that you're at 0. So that's why that's popped up there, and it probably won't go away until I recalibrate again. We'll recalibrate after the next episode, or between, not after the next episode, between this episode and the next one. I just got my reverser to go into neutral. Like, I made it a force of habit. Every time I'm going to slow my train down or stop it, if I'm not applying power, I'm not using the dynamic brakes, I just put the reverser into neutral. It's a habit that I've done forever since I started playing Run 8, and I've carried it over to other train sims. I do it here in TSW. I do it in trains. If I'm about to apply the brakes, reverser to neutral. Now we're gonna have to get out of the cab. So we've already done a 3-point. We'll actually we'll visually inspect to make sure. Neutral on the reverser, throttle's idle, train brake set, and independent brake set. That's actually a 4-point, but that's the safety feature. That ensures that this locomotive and this train is not going to roll or move while I am down here uncoupling these cars. And realistically, I don't need to set this handbrake. But we will anyways. The reason why you don't is because I would normally close this valve right here, which would prevent air from going from the train into the cars. Since the car's brakes are already applied and locked, if I uncouple them, airline brakes, I don't lose any air because that valve, my angle cock valve right there, is closed. But the angle cock on this car is still open, so all of the air from this train dumps out and effectively puts those cars into emergency. I don't know if TSW models that. They model a lot of things I don't think they would, and then they model a lot of things that... and then they don't model a lot of things you think they should. That EOT is super bright on that train over there. I'm like, I can see that from in the cab. So previous episode, I talked about how I was going to find a topic on the Train Sim World forums and just kind of maybe gloss over it a little bit. Just kind of be like, hey, that's actually a good idea. And somebody mentioned the live weather, and all they said is, I'd like to see live weather in the game. Who agrees with me? And I made a response on there, and I'll make one here. I 100% would love to see live weather in any train simulator. It's something that I know people have asked for a long time. I know in games like Trains, where you have real-time control of the weather, you can set it to be whatever weather conditions you want it to be whenever. Throw that switch and that switch. I oftentimes would look and see what the weather is at whatever route I'm running. Oh, it's raining on this route that's set in Michigan. I'll set my in-game weather to rain to match it. But flight simulators have it too. But at the same time, like having live weather would probably be very difficult to do because you'd have to have some kind of service that's checking it. And you really don't need live weather for the whole world, you just need live weather for the regions that your routes exist in. We got about 90 yards to stop here. It makes sense to have live weather in flight simulators. It makes sense to have them in train simulators, but it also isn't as practical. Like, it's not as easy to get set up. Alright, now where are we going? We went all this way. We went all the way to here. So we came off of this track, and we really only needed to stop. We could have stopped right here to throw this switch and this switch. I don't know why they have you go so far. Why you have to back up so far before you make a move. It's half the reason why these sessions take 4 hours to do. It's because they have you doing just way more tasks than you actually, not necessarily way more tasks. Well, they do. They have you doing way more tasks than you realistically need to do, and they have you going way farther than you need to go half the time. Watching our speed as we come up to make this joint. I may have to recalibrate my rail driver again, and I have to go through every single control. Well, that's why I said it would be nice if we could have like individual control calibration. Like I could just be like, my wiper blade switch isn't calibrated properly. I want to only calibrate that one. Oh, we're going down the wrong track. And apparently the independent brake didn't apply. Like, I went full independent and I'm like, why are we not stopping? I forgot to check that switch when I was checking the map. So we'll actually come down and we'll hand through that switch. Boop. There it goes. Why you're riding in the cab and not doing anything, I don't know. It's like, you have a conductor who doesn't do anything. He's just sitting there. He's just sitting there judging us the entire time. Another thing that I read that was kind of interesting on the forums. Somebody said, how do you know where the notches are on your rail driver for locomotives that have notches? As an American, virtual railroader, I only run North American equipment, our throttles on our locomotives have notches. Basically, you pull the lever and it goes click, 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 and that's how you apply power. It's not like your car where you can push the gas pedal just a little bit to go a little faster. These notches, that's notch 1, notch 2. I asked, well, how do you know where you are and what notch you're in on the rail driver if it's not physically notched? Because the rail driver doesn't have those notches to click. I said, you kind of you play around enough with it and you get your calibration right, you eventually get a good feel of where you need to move that lever to get into that spot. Like, I know if I move it, how far I need to pull it before it'll be in the notch that I need it to be in. And it's not always correct. But, you get a good feel of it, and you eventually learn it. Especially if you're playing something where the calibration on your rail driver is consistent. It seems like the calibration on my rail driver stays consistent on Run 8. I haven't had to calibrate my rail driver in over a year on Run 8, and it seems like every time I load up TSW, I have to recalibrate my rail driver, and every time I load up trains, my rail driver is for the most part keeps the calibration there. So that's something else to take into consideration. If you don't unplug your rail driver, I don't think you'll lose the calibration, but I do. I have too many things on my desk to leave my rail driver plugged in. In fact, after last week's recording, I recorded episodes 1 through 7 in one sitting. After I did that, I think the week after that, I didn't do any recording. I was going to, and I didn't. I took my computer completely apart, took all the wires off, and I rearranged everything. And now I have it set up where when I want to do flight sim stuff, I have one USB hub that I plug in, and my joystick and my throttle and my radio panels, all that are plugged in and ready to go. When I want to do racing stuff, I have one USB hub I plug in, and my gas pedal and my wheel and my gear shifter are all plugged in and ready to go. When I unplug them, the only USB stuff plugged into my computer is the charging cable for the link cable for my VR headset, my mouse, and keyboard. And I think, my mouse, my keyboard, and my microphone. Like, those are the only things still plugged in. Oh, no. I take that back. I'm going through my head. Mouse, keyboard, the 2 webcams I use when I'm doing my iRacing streams, and my microphone. Those are the only things that stay plugged in all the time. So I hope that you guys are at least getting some value, entertainment value, whatever out of this. I know it's not necessarily the most like intense gameplay. I'm not playing Doom Eternal or whatever, but I'm just driving a train, and I want to remind you that like I have never done this scenario before. This is the first time I've ever played this particular scenario. Let's see how our switches are lined up. We got a couple up to those cars there. So this is all very new for me. I love this absolutely stupid Run 8 Western boxcar I made. Like, they have a livery editor? I'm gonna make a livery and it's gonna be dumb. That horn just sounds so terrible. I feel like I'm going a little too fast, but I'm not. I'm only doing about 8 miles an hour here. I was saying, like, I want to keep this episode kind of short, so it's not like a 2-hour thing. You can sit down and spend, 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes on your lunch break or whatever, and be like, let's watch someone do some switching. Let's watch someone, try to have fun with a game that they have notoriously not had fun with. It's like the big issue I have with a lot of issues I have with TSW, and I really don't want to dive into them in this series, but one of the big things that I have is like that I bring up is entertainment value. Like when I log off of this game, when I exit the game, whatever, can I sit there and say I had fun? Did I enjoy myself? And a lot of times with TSW, the answer is no, I didn't. But trying to do like a video series about it and try and stay positive and everything, and having the rail driver, it's not as unfun as it was. It's still, there's things that make it not fun, but I'm at least finally able to enjoy it. I'm finally able to sit down and be like, okay, I can drive my train how I want. I can drive my train with some sense of control and a little bit more how I want to. I'm not walking away angry anymore. I used to load this up and play for an hour and just be frustrated. Just anger. And I'm not really feeling that anymore with this game. I think part of it too is I've got up there, my anger management under control. And you can also only be so angry at something for so long. What? Did I just bounce off of those cars? What? Okay, that's where they want me to couple. They want me to couple to those 4 cars. Alright, let's... What? I have not exited game, I've not saved game, so there's no scripting bug or whatever, but Oh man, if I can't couple to these cars and I have to restart the scenario, I will genuinely be a little upset. Let's unlock these coupler levers. Just see if maybe that helps. Okay, the knuckles are open, as they should be. Those are closed, as they should be. Maybe the knuckles were closed? I don't know. I wish there was more variety of train cars and just one style of box car, one style of hopper car. But it's dovetail. What do you expect? Alright. Let's try this again. There we go. I guess I just had to open the knuckles. Never had to do that before. At least, you know, in TSW, I've never had to do that before. And I know in the real world that is definitely something that happens. You have to open the knuckles between cars because sometimes they closed. But I'm so used to train simulators not modeling that, so I'm kind of, on one hand, I'm a little bummed out, a little frustrated that they did that, because it's like, did I just lose all my work because of a bug, or is it just user error? And it was user error. I'll admit that was user error. The car was under compression. I did that. Yeah, it was just user error, but it's like, I'm not used to that. I'm surprised it's modeled. Alright, well that's going to be it for this episode. I'll catch you guys next week in the next episode, in episode 10, where we continue running this job. Remember, these episodes are going to be about 20 minutes long. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe at some point I'll put face cam on. I know I use my face cam on live streams, and I don't do it here because I just don't want that clutter. But if enough people say they want it, then I'll do it. Catch you guys later.